You would hear stories of people who had miraculous healings, tumors shrinking, people whose diabetes reversed when they changed their lifestyle. So I figured if it's possible for some, why is it impossible for so many other people? And the gap was lifestyle, and that's why we got into lifestyle medicine.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And we are here at Jaipur Bytes, presented by Sapna Book House at the wonderful Jaipur Literature Festival. I'm your host for today, Nijesh Shah, director at Sapna Book House, India's largest book mall. And we have a wonderful, enterprising, dynamic personality with us who has not only transformed the way he lives, but transformed hundreds and thousands of people around him. It's an honor and a pleasure, Luke, to have you on today's podcast. And a small bit of note for all the audience over here. Kindly keep your volumes a bit low. This is a live recording. And kindly leave the space in front of us a bit empty and do not keep walking because the camera is in front of us. So without further ado, Luke, welcome to Sapna Book House presents Jaipur Bytes. And today we are so excited to have you and in conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
So Luke, you do a lot of things. You're a man who wears many, many hats, right from being an entrepreneur to being a lifestyle guru to an author. Also, you've influenced and impacted right from children, students to elders across the globe and in India. So my first question to you, Luke, would be why did you choose this path? Was there any incident in your life that made you choose lifestyle over everything else and made it your life goal in this birth?
Okay, no, so I don't have any story where I was sick or I had extra weight to lose. None of that. I was just interested in anatomy and nutrition as a subject. I decided to pursue it, joined the corporate world, looked at all our bosses getting sicker and sicker, complaining about body pains and diabetes. And I thought that was a good gap to look at why India at that particular point, when we had more knowledge on nutrition, exercise, why are people getting sicker and sicker? So I wanted to fill that gap. So I went off to the US. I had a mentor at Yale who introduced me to the subject of lifestyle medicine and immunology. And that's what I figured I wanted to do, to fix people's problems at the root cause level. While doctors are great at looking at the symptoms, medicines have to be taken. But why are people getting diabetes? Why do people get cancer? So that always intrigued me. And that was the story. I think just the fascination of the human body. You would hear stories of people who had miraculous healings, tumors shrinking, people whose diabetes reversed when they changed their lifestyle. So I figured if it's possible for some, why is it impossible for so many other people? And the gap was lifestyle. And that's why we got into lifestyle medicine.
Fantastic. You also call yourself as an alternate medicine practitioner. You don't really focus on medicine. You focus on different ways apart from the normal medicinal value that people have or people take. So out of all the things that you do, what are the basic homegrown remedies that you think people should adapt on a basic lifestyle level without really looking at deep dive into a major change in their life?
All right, so just a little thing. We're not alternative medicine. We're actually integrative medicine. We work with medicine. We don't believe that there can be alternatives for certain conditions. Like you'll have naturopathy, you have Ayurveda, you have a lot of these modalities of treatment. They're great, but for the right things. There are certain diseases that cannot get better with that alone. So our science is integrative medicine. We work with doctors. Our job is to manage the side effects of medicines and then address the root cause of the problem. So a remedy can never work unless the foundations of the human body are right. A lot of people take remedies, they get better for a few hours, and then they're back to the original problem because they've not worked on the foundation of gut health. Their sleep isn't good. They're chronically stressed out. So it's never about food versus medicine. It's about food and medicine. And I do believe that when you have the right lifestyle, the right kind of food, your doctor's more than happy to reduce your medication as your metrics get better. But if the metrics are not getting better, that's when they start to have a problem with everything else. So I think it's important for us to understand today the problem in our country. Considering our country, we have Ayurveda, years and years of fabulous science, we have naturopathy, we have allopathy, we have spiritual healing, energy healing. I mean, our country has that tradition of everything. But the problem is it's very fragmented. It's very fragmented, and there's a certain ego and pride that exists in all of these, treatments, that my treatment is better than yours, mine is right, yours is wrong. And who suffers is the patient at the end of the day. Finally, medicine, the ethics that we all observe when we are practicing any form of medicine is never to harm the patient and always do the right thing for the patient. So if there's a remedy that can help, take the remedy, but it doesn't mean you stop your medication. So when we look at the foundations of the human body and where we're going wrong as a country right now, people have made nutrition too complicated, or they've not just given it any focus. Exercise, people are either overtraining or they're not training at all. Sleep continues to be one of our biggest failures when it comes to health in our country. Chronic sleep deprivation, sleeping at different hours, compromising sleep for OTT platforms or for work or for socializing. And then we have chronic stress, which today we see as one of the top drivers of disease as well as depression. So when you look at the top two things that are affecting most Indians, it's not that people are eating more sugar and getting diabetes. Why are people eating more sugar? Because they're stressed out, they're sleep deprived. So when you fix those two things, everyone already knows they should cut down on sugar, they should cut down on junk. But it's very difficult for people to do that. What's driving it? Their emotions, their sleep deprivation. So you have to look at the foundations when you're really looking at recovery. People take medicine, but they don't look at the side effects of medicine. So that's when the medicine gets worse. After a while, it starts having more and more side effects. So remedies are great. I would say the best remedies for us right now to improve is our quality of sleep, how we learn to navigate through chronic stress, that being one of the biggest players. Nutrition, I can guarantee you, everyone over here knows what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat. And everyone knows that you should be probably more active, and less sedentary. So before we get into, India is great on remedies. We saw lists of remedies come out during COVID, from turmeric shots to amla. We're rich on that, but we're still the sickest country when it comes to diabetes, cancer, and cardiovascular. Show you that a remedy is practically useless, like a medicine, unless you're setting the foundations right or you're addressing the root cause.
I think very well addressed the different aspects of why one should look at and how one should look at remedies, especially in the country like India. A little bit about authorship, Luke. Today, there are so many people who talk about healthcare, mental well-being, and there are so many different methods through which people are addressing, be it YouTube, be it podcasts, be it Instagram Reels, be it blogs. But you also chose the traditional route of the written word. What makes you believe that a book has a longer life shelf when it comes to, advocating what you do compared to an ever-distracting world of social media? There's so much of communication content around the things that you do by so many different people, and what sets you apart specifically through your books.
So when you write a book, you have to, because it goes through legal pathways of the publisher. It goes through a lot of research that has to be authenticated. You can't just put nonsense in a book. The point is, with YouTube and social media, it really depends on the intention behind the person putting it. Is it to educate, or is it to keep the algorithm going? So if it's to keep the algorithm going and you want people to constantly like your page or, stop scrolling, the very fact that you have to use a hook on a post means that you don't have the ability to put the right content. So social media, some people use it very, very effectively, but for most people, they're just trying to keep the algorithm going. I think a book requires a lot more science. When you're trying to do a 30-second reel, because that's all that people can, look at, how can you get science into a 30-minute reel? You have to get the drama, you have to get all the fluff before you actually get to the truth of it. So I think a book will always hold a lot of value. And then you look at long-form content, which YouTube really had, where people break down a subject that can go on for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, but you break it down with science, with action plans, and, with the whole education around it. So there's a huge difference. I actually think that short-term content is not making a difference. In fact, there's something called brain rot today. The more reels, and we've done this so many times, we ask people, how many reels have you watched in a day? They'll be, 8, 9, 10. What do you remember from the reels? They can't remember one little thing. Even if the reel was entertainment, forget about anything to do with health or learning. So I think people have to understand that there is a difference. You want to just be entertained, you go on social media. But if you really want to learn, you want to educate yourself, or sometimes social media is good. You get an idea from there, and then you go and you further study it on your own, or you get the right experts to help you break that down, or you refer to the right books to learn more. So there's a huge difference between, a book and social media.
And you think in many ways as an author, when you write a book, the responsibility towards your audience increases when compared to putting something out on social media, shorter format content, because a book literally helps you cross boundaries. It's on the shelves of your readers for a much longer time. And I have a follow-up question to that. In your when you write a book, you generally write for the larger audience. But when you are trying to, heal somebody, it's more personal in terms of their journey. So how does the book solve both the problems? One is, how does it make you more responsible as a practitioner, as an advocate to health science? And two, for a larger audience, how do you ensure that it really helps the person? Because you don't really know who's reading the book.
Right. So I think the author holds the responsibility, knowing that your book is on a bookshelf somewhere, it's an ebook, and what you've put out there can be viewed by millions of people. Today, people put up crap content on social media and can delete it very, very quickly, and there's no responsibility for it. So like my first book today, we even had a notice go out that a lot of these things have now changed because science is constantly changing. So especially in the health industry, that's why the last 4 books of mine have nothing to do with nutrition, because it's evolving. There has been cherry-picked science for the longest time that, a lot that we learned in our curriculum is very questionable. A lot what the doctors are learning in their curriculum today, they are understanding are not complete. So you see, there's been cherry-picked science for the longest time. And I think with the book, it holds a lot of responsibility to, put that information out there, especially if it's going to be health and medical, which is why there are always reference points given, and the author has a responsibility. If the science has changed, you need to inform your publishers to the extent that even remove that book if it, if the science changed. So I think it brings in a lot of rigor of research that has to go into that. And I think as an author as well, it's not just, there are enough of diet books available, and still obesity is one of, the biggest problems. So it's obviously not working. But I think the ability to storytell your science, storytell experience to people in a way that it brings emotional appeal, and they're able to wow, I want to do this. So I believe a book should not just give you knowledge, but it should be able to inspire change into people. It should be able to get people into action. Like we have a ton of self-help books today, and a lot of people have that. They're great books, but no one practices even 1% of what they've learned in a self-help book. So I think there's a lot of responsibility for the author to try and storytell through the book. So for example, our book, we broke it down into 75 small wins, because we figured if you just write about it, people are going to lose interest. And you can take one win from that book, and it can make a huge difference when it comes to your stress levels. You don't have to do all 75. They're not necessary, but people have a choice. So we've also understood that people like variety, people like choices, and people love real life stories. So a lot of our books have our patients' stories in them to inspire people of how making small changes can help them get better.
And again, coming down to your books, you've got 6 books that you've authored. Out of the 6 books, 4 books, you've got a co-author also, from Shilpa Shetty to Anushka Shetty to Tamanna, and you also have a shake, I think it is called the Green Shake. So why do you choose to have a co-author when you are the best in the business? Do you think that it helps in reaching out to more different set of people when you have a co-author? How does the entire process work when you have a co-author for the voice that you want to bring out?
So there's a reason, there's a strategy behind all of this. So when you have Bollywood with you, you can reach the masses blindly. People will, after we released our first book, Shilpa Shetty and me, there were people just I just want her diet. I just want her diet. I just want a diet. And that we figured is at least a great change, because we could both inspire change in people from the uses of oils to moving away from junk food. We did it with the Sheikh in Dubai because we wanted to get the principle of dry fasting amongst the Emiratis. So he would be able to influence that with his position and his understanding of dry fasting and how it's in their religion and integrated. So there's always been a strategy. Anushka was a very good journey. She struggled, like most people, to lose weight. And when she finally figured out that with simple lifestyle changes, She was like, Luke, let's put it in a book. And she has a massive following in the South, and we could reach out to that following. So everything is always strategic, and the ones which have gone solo is because we know we can hit that market without the requirement of, strategic influences.
Very well said. And I think through this strategy, the least that you're doing is actually solving the problem of reaching to the right people. And your books definitely have been doing that. Your first book, The Great Indian Diet, you've mentioned about how you should stop copying the West, and a little bit more about why people are moving and copying to the West. And in the whole general global scenario, a lot of people are looking at India as a market where they could improve their lifestyle, right from yoga practicing to visiting different forms of meditation centers. Why do you think that people are in India are looking at the West, but the whole world is looking at India?
So I think there are two ways. It's not that the West is bad. There's much that we can learn from the West. And given our, the British time where we were always suppressed by white supremacy, and that was built into our generations before, the generations before have always looked in awe for the better life. Like everyone does that. Everyone in every social circle is always looking for the next, higher elevation in that circle. Like there's a great saying that, when you look at, what will, without the derogatory use of classes, but, what will the middle income people buy? How do you know what they'll buy? And you just look at the people who are richer than them, what they have, and that becomes aspirational for them. So it's always been, it's nature. Everyone wants the next position. They want the next society status. And that's exactly what happened with people in India. They aspired for everything that happened in the West. Not a bad thing, but the West is fantastic at getting their science right, packaging it the right way, and being very, detailed when it comes to harming human life. So there's a lot that we can learn. And yes, the West has taken a lot from our country, which our country's always been willing to share with the world. And they've just done it a little bit better than Indians. And now Indians, yoga is great for us, but if they see someone in the US talking about it, then that's the time they'll get back into yoga. So the point is it's changing now because we've become so much more global. And the point is, I think India has the scope of really organizing science, putting it into structure, and then I think it has a lot more value than that because we are sitting on a rich culture of immense sciences like Ayurveda. We have our traditions of yoga, pranayam, and so much of wisdom in our own country. It's changing now. People are adopting that. We have a lot of influences in the country trying to revive that. So I think it's important for us to understand that the West has also made their share of mistakes over time. And that's why I always tell people don't blindly copy the West. I work in both places. I work very closely with patients in Sloan's, Mount Sinai, Mayo. And we always notice that certain parts of nutrition, certain parts of the medical system is a very cookie cutter approach. Everyone's put in the same box for treatment. That's how it is. And these are things that now science is trying to change, that, personalized medicine, personalized nutrition, because everyone's different. What suits you doesn't have to suit someone else. So it is changing, and I think it's great advice for people in India to understand what our superpowers are and optimize on that, while we should continue, like we have to over to the West. The West loves to learn, and they're continuing to learn from India. I think it's nice for us to learn from the West as well, but you got to put that hat of sensibility on, common sense, and the right perception.
Yeah, very well said. And any Indian tradition that you could swear by, which you would like to share, that, this is one Indian tradition which Indians as well as the world should look at, something that you've, grown looking at, practiced looking at, one Indian tradition.
It would be pranayam. What a beautiful tradition.
Something more on how it should be practiced from a general common man standpoint of view.
The beauty of pranayam, it teaches us that even 2 to 3 minutes a day is enough. But the thing is, we made it complicated that you need to do 30 minutes, you need to do 1 hour, and most people are like, I don't have time for that. And then you just don't do it. And pranayam could be the simplest anulom vilom. You don't even have to do all of them. So I think with that, then you move into your asanas, yoga. So I think that's a beautiful tradition we have. Our tradition, the Indian thali, is a plate of science. The way the foods are planned, the synergies of food, but then we mess it up by overeating it, eating more carbs, being sedentary, and then we blame Indian food. So I think there's a lot of wisdom in our Indian food, even in our traditions, our culture, people eating with their hands. Today it's a studied science. of when you eat with your fingers. It slows you down, because if the food is too hot, you don't put it in your mouth. You connect all your five senses. There are so many beautiful traditions we have in our own country, and our base of spirituality, which doesn't force people into a particular religion, but teaches you that spirituality could just be you being kind, you being compassionate, you having an intention to help someone. If you don't have something good to say, just don't say it. It doesn't force people into religion. It's Instagram that draws and puts boundaries between religions in our country. So I think there's a lot. These are some of our traditions, nature, spending time in nature, our sunlight in the morning with sun salutations. I think these are simple Indian traditions which are very, very powerful, and they're being embraced a lot by the West right now.
Wow. I think small changes that we could have in a day-to-day life, people tend to complicate it. And very well, again, addressed. In your second book, we'll try to take one or two questions in each of your book because we have limited time. But in your second book, where you talk about the magic weight loss, you break down this principle into 62 different ways of technique. So if you could, share your top 5 techniques on magic weight loss, and why do you think that this is the most commonly discussed topic, not only in India, but across the globe? I mean, we have obesity as one of the most chronic disease in the US also. And in India, people look at weight loss as a very serious subject, but many of them fail to achieve what they can. So in your techniques that you've mentioned in your book, would you like to just enlighten us, out of all the different techniques, probably the top 5, 6 simple techniques which could actually transform magically in a person's life in terms of weight loss?
So one would be eat mindfully, learning to chew your food, because that automatically cuts down the amount of food that you're going to eat, and then, the whole calorie in, calorie out. 2 is getting your sleep right, because most Indian men and women who are suffering from weight loss, there are 2 reasons. You're putting on weight because you have a crappy diet, but for the ones who are eating well but still struggling to lose weight, they have a hormonal imbalance. And that imbalance is caused by sleep deprivation and stress again. Which is why is the world failing? Why have we reached a point where today you can buy GLP-1 drugs like over the counter now in India? Why? Because the whole point is no one's thrown light on the fact that the biggest issue is not a lack of drugs or lack of information regarding food and lifestyle. It's human behavior. We do not know how to behave around food. We do not know how to fix the foundations like sleep, stress. So we're chasing shortcuts and quick fixes. So the book talks about, number 1, learning to chew your food. Number 2, trying to have consistency. Keep your meal times the same. Then we have people taking trends and fads, like doing extended fasts, changing their fasting timings, all of that, slowing down their metabolism and causing more hormonal damage. I think the next is overeating, because if people are stressed or they're eating junk, the body starts craving more and more food. So people are eating a lot more calories than they should. Then 4 is a genuine problem in our country, the adulteration of food. The amount of pesticides in food, the amount of food brands that exist with non-ethical labeling, and, the usage of licenses which are not even approved by the government. So that is one problem which I would say is a little bit out of control.
Do you think we need more of food farmer kind of people who really break down
No,
these
we
things?
don't need people. We need honest founders. That's it. Why should we need people, right? I mean, it's easy to pull down products. It's easy to pull down brands. But what's the solution? Every single product that's mentioned by not just Food Pharma, anyone, I can guarantee you people are still eating it, because the problem is human behavior. And unless, the point is, if the country allows a founder to create a dishonest product, the problem is with the law, the problem is with the FSSAI, and the problem is with the ethics of the founder. So the problem is we should not be calling out products anymore. That's useless. That's clickbait. We have to be calling out founders. We got to be asking the founders on social media literally to answer the questions, not influencers, not mid-people, because adulteration is affecting men, women, young children, and our senior citizens massively.
I think these are very powerful words that you're speaking, Luke, because I'm sure that you would have addressed these conversations in platforms like JLF and beyond. But despite people like yourself who really want to make a positive difference in the way human behaviors look like, why do you think that the law, why do you think that compliances are not really looking at these things? Is it not affordable by people, or is it not looked up in a way that it should be made? Why do you think that this is continuously happening, not only in our country, but across the globe? And because of these irregularities, the sufferers is the human mind and the body.
Yeah, so we have to look. So this problem has been going on for decades. India's changing, we're progressing, the economy is growing, etc. But to undo the non-ethical practices that have happened 30 years ago and 20 years ago, which is affecting our generation now, can't change overnight. It can't. Like pollution, we want pollution. We're aware that the government is trying to change pollution. I'll give you a simple example. We filed a PIL with the Supreme Court on the pollution. Yep, recently, and I got my answers. I'm no longer active in it. The one question that was given to us, which was very, very fair, that if we have to make a change in the law that impact the people, like if we say families should have one car, okay, you're going to have most of the families using their connections and trying to bribe the RTO to do the opposite. Are the people willing to cooperate to make pollution better? And the answer is sadly no. So there are bigger problems than just what the media shows us. And the FSSAI, we work very closely. They are trying. They have an honest attempt to try to change these things. But the point is, each time they put a new rule, one beautiful fact of India is people find loopholes to, work through it. So unless they come up with a very, very, very strict law, around this, it's happening slowly. It's going to take time. There will be a positive change, maybe not right now, but in the future. But we have to always remember that change can't happen instantly, especially when the problem was created by non-ethical founders 10 years ago or 20 years ago who still control a lot of the government. So these are the bitter, ugly truths that exist in our country. So the people have to unite to solve this problem. If I have a problem with the brand, people should come together on social media, and people have to understand that when they unite, they become a power. Imagine all of social media demanding honest answers from a founder. They will have to change the way they work. But the point is, everyone knows how to keep people divided on social media. That's why there's a ton of hatred and toxicity, because if you divide and conquer, that's the only way you can actually continue with the malpractices in a country.
Very hard-hitting facts, Luke, that you talk of today. Drawing the conversation back into the book, the second book, the Magic Weight Loss, would you like to share a general myth about dieting which people have in our country, and how have you gone about, busting the general myth about dieting?
So one is that fat makes you fat. It's not true. It's the wrong quality of fat that does. And then two is that if I ate a samosa or I ate a piece of cake and it's 300 calories and I go to the gym and I run on a treadmill and I burn 300 calories, it's all good. So these are all myths, because the body doesn't work on the principle of math. It works on chemistry, biology, and physiology. Another myth is that, I can starve the weight off me. So if I ate a heavy meal, I won't eat for the next 15 hours. But people don't understand that the body is going into a starvation mode, increasing cortisol, slowing down metabolism, actually making the problem worse. So I think these are some of the myths which people have in their mind, that weight loss is easy and, you can go into a calorie deficit. Most people lose just water and muscle and not really body fat. So these are some of the myths that exist.
Wow. And in your third book, which you have co-authored with the Sheikh, the dry fasting miracle, can you help us understand what is dry fasting and who should be taking it, who should be doing it, and who should not be doing the dry fasting? Because I think it's a very important topic. You just talked about, people getting into the notion, if I want to lose weight, if I want to control some of the dietary constraints that I wish to do, I just go on a diet. But that's not scientifically good for the body. So if you could throw us more light on what exactly is dry fasting and who should be doing it and who should not be attempting to do it.
So dry fasting is when you have no food and you have no water. So people who have done Ramadan understand that they don't have water and food, until the evening, until the fast breaks. Now, of course, people have to gradually move into this, because if you're dehydrated and you're doing it, you're going to have bigger problems. So the whole book talks about who should do it, who shouldn't do it, and how to start off maybe with a normal fast on water. And then, maybe out of your, let's say you're doing 12 hours of fasting with water. After about 2-3 days, try to keep 10 hours with water and 2 hours dry. So you slowly keep integrating it. And the point is, it's not more is better. The point is that when you're in a state of dry fasting, your body actually gives you all the scientific benefits that, people look for in fasting. It's not for everyone. There are people with certain conditions, weaknesses. That's in the book, of course. So it's always good to keep your doctor in the loop before you dry fast. And you don't have to dry fast every day. That's the beauty of it. So you can water fast. You can keep, maybe if you're 8 hours fasting on food, 8 hours, the balance 8 hours can be without water. But it's important to make sure that you're hydrated before and hydrated after, because there's no point fasting on and being dehydrated and having more problems. Yeah.
And your next book is Back to the Roots, which you have co-authored with Tamanna. Why did you choose this title, and what is it that India has to offer that the world should be looking forward to?
So Tamanna has been our client since then and up till now, and she figured a lot of the issues she had got just simply sorted out when she went back to her roots, away from all the raw diets and everything else. And she started eating her normal traditional foods that her parents ate and her grandparents ate. So that's when it was during COVID that we decided, let's just get people back to their roots. And that's the reason we wrote that book.
And any grandmother techniques that you scientifically believe that it's really good and it works?
Yeah, the whole book is based on science, like I said. And I think back to the roots again. I mean, back to simplicity. That's what our ancestors did. It's always nice to look at why they had lesser disease. They had different complications, but lesser lifestyle diseases. They had things more related to hygiene. They had things related to dangers of their work, working in a field, etc., etc. They didn't have lifestyle diseases. Diabetes was unheard of at that particular point. So the book talks about, if they didn't have diabetes back then, what were they doing right? So it comes down to your simple foods, your portion control, learning to be happy, learning to let go of certain things, not trying to be in control of everything, which is why most people are stressed out today. It also talks about our herbs that existed, our spices like turmeric and ginger. And we even see that our ancestors didn't make ginger water every day and drank. They drank it when there was a problem. And you see, we're having turmeric shots every day, but they never had turmeric shots every day. So it's just to show you how people today have picked up on healthy things and they're making it a daily habit when it's not really necessary. So the book talks about these little things, which encourage us to get back to our roots.
And when you talk about eating the right way, sleeping the right way, breathing the right way, also you talk about how to be positive and creative in your mental well-being. Do you think that a lot of the problems are solved just by having a better mental lifestyle rather than adopting to a better food or a diet lifestyle?
100%. Because most people's behavior around food, lifestyle, vices, alcohol, drugs, etc. is coming from the head. It's not a physical attraction, right? So our mental health, our emotional health determines our behaviors. Most people overeat because they're emotional or they're greedy. Now people have to decide which one they are. But the point is, even greed comes from an issue in your mental health. It comes from that mindset that I'll never get this meal again, so let me overeat it today. Or they're unhappy. They're just trying to eat their emotions all the time. So I do believe that mental health, emotional health, these play a critical role in our physical health as well. A lot of the diseases today, as our doctors also speak out, a lot of them are psychosomatic. People get pains out of stress. There's no physical ailment. The MRIs are clear. The CTs are clear. But they constantly get pain. You change their environment, the pain disappears. So a lot of it is psychosomatic. Psycho means involves the mind again. So that's how it is.
Fantastic. And a couple of more questions about your book. Your next book, Small Wins Every Day, has been your best-selling book ever. All your books are doing well, but that particular book has literally been your blockbuster book in terms of the sales. So can you help us share as to what are the smallest of the smallest change that all of us can adapt to for the biggest of the biggest ROI for ourselves?
So again, the whole book talks about consistency over intensity. Like if you don't have an hour for a workout, you have 10 minutes, do 10 minutes, but do the 10 minutes. Something's better than nothing. So it breaks down all the verticals of health. It talks about you can't get 3 meals right, get 2 right. If you can't get 2, get 1. Then be consistent with that. Even your sleep, it's not about getting 8 hours of sleep. Try to improve your sleep by maybe 30 minutes, 15 minutes, be consistent, and then take the next step. So the whole book is based on neuroscience, which is dopamine, and how dopamine controls our ways of being, why people give up too quickly. So people want to learn how to do push-ups, but they give up because they can't do 1. But the point is do 1, and then it becomes 2, and then it becomes 3. So it works on the whole compounding effect, and it actually helps people to break down their most challenging goals into the smallest wins consistently. So the whole book breaks down all the verticals of health into small wins, and it teaches them how to, be consistent with those wins, basically.
And we have your latest book, The Calm Prescription, which you just launched last year in 2025. Talks about 75 scientific ways to create better health, longevity, and happiness. So in this book, what are you trying to achieve, which you have not done in your previous 5 books? And what is it that a reader should look forward to in this book particularly?
So it basically goes back to your next question, like what is the thing that people need the most right now? Calm. Most people are so stressed out that even their medicines don't work well anymore. Their supplements don't work well. So that's why we made it a Calm Prescription. And this is a doctor-led book. It starts off with a lot of oncologists, cardiologists talking about how they no longer see disease. They just see a stressed out body. And they see medicines being effective on a stressed out, ineffective. So we decided to actually prescribe calm to people, to teach them it's not always your diet, it's not always exercise, but it's, our state. The book doesn't mean you need to be calm all the time. It means that even when we're stressed out, how quickly can we come back to calm? So the book breaks it down into 75 little things that you can do to start improving the calm in your life. Of course, you can just do one of them and that can change your life, but people need variety.
What would you suggest? Your
Breath
top 3?
It will always be breath.
You also talked about pranayama in your earlier conversation.
That's the quickest way.
That's the quickest and the most effective?
The most effective.
And most simplest in the way to keep your body and mind calm?
Absolutely. But then you would pair that. You would want to spend time in nature. You want to relook at the quality of your friends, the quality of the company you keep. You want to, it just brings a lot of awareness to what is taking away our calm. So it's very important to find out what takes away our calm. Why are we always in unrest? Why are we always trying to control situations, control people? So the book actually starts off with that because solutions don't help. It's good for people to understand what is taking away my calm and then try to figure out now, how can I use techniques and tools to bring that calm back?
Fantastic. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a very informative, if I can use that word, and a very interactive session of how to be calm, how to have a better lifestyle. Lot of information about what little that Luke could share with us today is in his books. Before we, say a goodbye to him for this conversation, a little bit on the fun side, I've got a rapid fire lined up for you. I've got my iPad in front of me and a quick round to, for the audience, for our viewers to pick the fun side and also within that, the more informative side of Luke Coutinho. So first, Luke, I would like to ask you, one book that changed how you think about your health, apart from your books.
I think it was The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. Yeah.
And one habit you picked up because you wrote a book.
Consistency.
Fantastic. And that's what you mentioned in many of your books, across all your books, in fact. Most overrated health trend today.
Most overrated health trend is Instagram in general.
Instagram, yeah. Okay. And most underrated health habit?
Sleep.
Wow, okay. One habit people refuse to give up but shouldn't?
I think it's overeating. Yeah.
And supplements, you think that's essential or optional for people? You think that's important in today's day and age?
Supplements are only dependent on deficiencies. So right now, India lacks vitamin B12 and D3, and that's actually a critical breakdown in our healthcare system. So I advise people to get your checkup done. If you're deficient in D3 and B12, which most people will be, you need to get it fixed by taking the right supplementation. All other supplements sound amazing to take, but you should take it only if you have a deficiency or if your medical practitioners or your health professionals have given it to you. It should never be influencer-led, social media-led, or because it's well marketed and it sounds amazing.
I think well noted. And one Indian food that's misunderstood.
I think turmeric is highly misunderstood. People see it as the superfood. It's amazing, but a lot of India is living with grade 3 fatty livers, cirrhotic livers. Turmeric can actually become very harmful for you. So it's a very misunderstood, very potent, very powerful. People take curcumin, etc., but very, very dangerous in our country when a lot of people are living with non-alcoholic fatty liver or alcoholic fatty liver and consuming turmeric, thinking it's making them better, but it's actually making them worse.
Interesting. And desi or global food philosophy, you're more of a desi eater, or you are okay to consume anything that is well structured in terms of ingredients and nutrition?
I love Indian food, but I love all global cuisines that actually have culture in them. science in them, like the spices they've used, the flavors, local ingredients. But I love Indian food. Yeah.
And walks or workouts? What is walks or workouts? What should be the most easier thing to be adapted in a day-to-day lifestyle?
I think walking is a powerful exercise, but different people have different needs. So I would do a walk and a workout, because once your workout's over for 1 hour, that means you'll be sitting for the rest of the day. No, we should still walk. So it should be both of them. Yeah.
And wrapping things up, what is next for Luke?
The next patient. That's it.
Fantastic. I think we've got a wonderful session with Luke, and I'm sure that all of you have taken a lot of things, informative things of today's session. This is Jaipur Bytes, presented by Sapna Book House. We've got, of course, Luke, who also has a session after this, so a lot more that one can take from Luke immediately after the session. So, Luke, it was wonderful to have you. Thank you so much for being so candid, being so informative, and more importantly, being so fit. I mean, you look so lovely on screen, and especially when we talk to you in person. So once again, thank you so much. It was lovely to have you and to host you at Jaipur Bytes, presented by Sapna Book House.
Thank you. Thank you so much.